Okay, so, okay, all right, here we go. Let's go through a couple things here. Let me get these desks out of the way, they're a little close for testing. All right. Okay, so what we've been talking about the last couple days in here is repeating decimals, right? So we're in section 410, 411. These are the last sections of chapter 4, so next week we're going to start reviewing. That means as early as possibly next Wednesday we could have a test in here. As early as Wednesday in here for next week. I've given you the practice guide, I gave you that yesterday. Hold on to that until Monday, because we're going to need it. Don't lose it. I only have those two plus my copies, so don't lose those. Keep those
Just
on.
so I don't.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it up there.
Okay, alright, that's fine.
Mine in a folder that
Okay,
don't
so just
lose
hold on to it for right now, I'll take it here in a minute. Alright, but again, we're doing repeating decimals. Okay, that's our goal today, is to figure out what repeating decimals are and how we can manipulate and convert them from one form to the other.
Is this a new thing we're doing?
No, this is the stuff we started yesterday.
Okay.
So let's start with the fractions first. Okay, there's some easy ways to kind of easily tell whether you're going to get a repeating or not, and then we'll discuss what we can do with that. My door's stuck?
No, close.
Oh,
I think it just closed.
okay, maybe I'm being too loud. Anyways, we're gonna look at a couple of the fractions, and our goal here is to learn how to convert it to repeating decimals. So to do that, we have to know how to long divide, and that's the part we're gonna actually do by hand. We're actually gonna long divide and actually check out a few numbers. So I have a couple picked out that I would like to try, and then we'll kind of look at how these work. All right, so let's start right off on the first couple examples here. We'll start with the fraction here. Let's look at the fraction. Look at 5 over 15. Okay, 5 over 15. We're going to look at, and this one should represent a repeating decimal. We'll get to it here in a second. But what we talked about yesterday is how to get to the decimal form itself. This requires long division. Okay, so you're going to have a number in the house. Now, on this particular problem, which number goes in the house, top or bottom?
15.
Nope.
Oh yeah,
Top.
short.
The numerator is always the dividend. This is the number that goes in the house.
I always saw it as bigger number.
Yeah, well, that's what most people think, right? That's the most common mistake. Is that, yeah, you've been kind of programmed since, junior high days, elementary days, where it's always the big number goes in the house. Well, now it's whatever the top number is. So the 5 goes in the house and 15 goes on the outside. Now, as we go through this, we're gonna write these down and we're gonna see if we can get to this. Now, this will be a part where maybe the multiplication chart won't even have this. We'll kind of see, we'll look. But anyways, how many times can 15 go into 5 without going over?
3.
15 goes into 5. 15 into 5.
Oh, 0.
0, okay? It's too big. So 15 times 0, because I can't go into 5, it's too big. So now, 15 into 50. 15 into 50.
Oh, 0.
This one will be a 3. 15 times 3 is 45. Now that one you'd probably need a calculator for just to kind of figure that out. Okay. But again, we take 15 times 3, that gets me closest to 50 without going over. That one is not on your multiplication chart. Now, what I want to know is, what do you get when you subtract them straight down? What's 50 minus 45?
Well, 0 and 5 is 0.
Well, you'd have to borrow, right? Make this a 4, that's a 10. 10 minus 5?
5.
5. 4 minus 4?
It's 30. 15 minus what?
45. 50 minus 45.
50. 19. That would be 4 and 4, or is that 0?
0. So it's just 5. And we bring down the next number. Now what do we notice again?
It just
Oh,
keeps
we're gonna play
going.
this
Keeps
game
going.
again.
So now we'd go with 3. We go 45. And you subtract, you get your 5 again. We bring down the next number, which is 0. And you start all the way over again with, we do another 3, and you get the idea. So my final answer, the decimal goes straight up. So my final answer is 0.3, and the 3 repeated over and over and over and over and over. Okay? Make sense? It's a long division problem, but you have to figure out how to do it. So that's something that I wanted to make sure of. Now, what we talked about yesterday is we did a few examples of how we can make our own. What was the big deal? Like when you're gonna make your own fraction that repeats, what was the rule I said yesterday? What do you guys remember?
It has to have zeros.
Say it again?
It has to have zeros.
Possibly a zero out front, doesn't have to. But if you're gonna make your own fraction that repeats, what was the rule that we were looking at the last 2 or 3 problems? What had to be on the bottoms?
A big number.
Big number, I agree, but what type of number? It was this very specific type.
Seven.
Look at your examples yesterday, take out your notes. What were the last examples? What did they all have in common?
Isn't it like, like 100 or something like that?
Nope, close. You're very, very close. That's what we did in the problems. What were they on the bottom? What was the bottom number as always? What were the bottom numbers when we made our own fractions?
I don't know, my notes went over here.
21. What? 1
No, that was the middle of our problems. What was the bottom number? What did they have to be in the very, very end?
Repeating. Decimal.
Well, that's what we want. We want repeating decimals. But what was the number on the fractions? We made up certain numbers, like we made up numbers. Like, make a number that you want to repeat over and over and over.
21.
Yeah.
Not 21. We did 21 yesterday.
22.
Oh, 22. All right. So you're going to go 22s, right? 22, 22, or just 2 repeating over and over and over, right? Here's the trick. Whatever number you're going to repeat, you put that number on the top of the fraction. How many numbers are underneath the bar now? How many numbers are underneath the bar? 1. So you put 1 9 on the bottom. Put 9s on the bottom. So try that in your calculator. So type in 2, divide it by 9 on your calculator, and you're going to see it's the number that you just wanted me to make up, the 22 repeating over and over and over and over and over. And over.
Two.
The 9s on the bottom, yep, the 9s on the bottom automatically can make your fraction repeating. It's a weird little quirk. Now I know like this one, you're like, well Ward, that didn't have a 9. Yeah, but there's certain ways I simplified problems already so that I knew what the numbers were going to be before I started. So here's the idea. Let me make up a weird number, not just 2s. Let's make up a number that is 4 digits that repeats. 4 numbers. So Sam, pick one number. First number. Any number you want.
I'll go 2.
7.
7. I'm going to go with the number 1. Eric, another number please.
2.
2. And I'm going to go with 6. If I want that number to repeat over and over and over, I put that number on top of the house, the number that I want to repeat, and how many 9s do I need to put on the bottom? How many 9s do I need to put on the bottom?
4.
4. 4 9s, because there's 4 numbers underneath the bar. That's how it works. If you type that in your calculator, it'll actually show that number 7126 repeat over and over and over and over and over. So 7126 divided by 9,999. Okay?
That's a big number.
Big numbers. Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
Okay, alright. So that's if you had to make up your own. Now, let's say we had a decimal and you didn't know how it works. Now this is our new one. I'm going to start with a particular decimal today, a very strange one, and you're going to see that it's not our normal problem. Okay? So, here we go. So, the decimal we're going to have today, and we're going to try to make it into a fraction. So we're going to try to convert it into a fraction, but it's a repeating decimal. But these, very specific. So I'm going to leave this example on the board just so you can see this, so I can compare it to the one I'm going to make up. Alright, here's the decimal I'd like to make up. 0.10, and then I want 5s repeating in the back. Just like that. That's the number I want to make up. Now, here's my question. Was it the same number that repeated the entire time? Okay, like from the start of the decimal to the end of the decimal, was that the same number the entire problem?
Nope.
No. So this problem wouldn't require 99s on the bottom. Because it's not the same number repeating. Like this one did. Because it would have been the 7126, 7126. From the beginning to the end, it was the same number every time repeating. This problem has a couple extra numbers that didn't repeat. This problem is goofy, okay? So this is the one I'd like you to put down in your notes. So if you haven't written down this problem already, I'd like you to write it down.
Smiley.
Okay, so,
Okay.
so write down that number right there.
That big
That
number?
number right there, yep. We're gonna convert it to a fraction, and this will require a little bit of algebra skills. But again, you can't just put 9s on the bottom, it won't work. Okay, because it doesn't have the same number repeating the whole time. Okay, so write it down.
Oh, seriously?
What?
I just had to come over there for the rest of it to be 5s.
Okay, we're good? Alright, now this is gonna be my number with the 1x. 1x, that's my 1x number. That's my original number I'm starting with. Now, if you wanna know like how this is written in terms of like the bars itself, this is what it looks like. Just the 5 is underneath the house, not the 1 and 0, because the 5 is the only number that repeated. So that would be the look if you wanted it into like, in repeating decimal form with the actual repeating bar. Alright, now, how many numbers are underneath the little bar over there? How many numbers are underneath the bar? 1, right? So you're gonna put 1 0 out front. However many numbers are underneath the bar, that's how many zeros you put out front. Okay, so we have 1. Now, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna move the decimal that many spots. So if I had 1 0, how many decimal places do I move my decimal? 1. So it's gonna be this. It's the same number I just wrote down a little bit ago, but I moved the decimal 1 spot over. So I went to the back 1 spot. So do you see that it is the same number, just 1 decimal place moved? Okay, now this is the part that I'm going to need your help on. Okay, so Sam, I'm going to start with you. In the back, when we start subtracting straight down, what happens back here? All these 5s.
Oh, that's a lot of 10. Oh wait, subtracting?
Yeah, subtracting.
That's a lot of zeros.
A lot of zeros. These all cancel out to make zeros until I get to right there. Now it's not a 0 anymore. Okay? Because what's 5 minus 0?
5.
5. Then the next number, I can't even do that number. I can't go 0 minus 1, so I'm going to borrow making this a 0. This is a 10. 10 minus 1?
9.
9. And then I have the decimal, and 0 minus 0 is 0. Okay? So it's kind of a weird number. The 5's in the back. Now, if you want to type that in your calculator to figure that out, we need the 5's in the back, but just type in 1.05 and subtract 0.10. And you would have got this number. It would have been the same thing. Okay? Alright, now in the front, what's 10 minus 1?
9.
9. Okay, now, this is my step where I'm going to make it a fraction now. I want to move this number to the bottom because I want to get the x by itself. So, what is my fraction if I move the 9 to the bottom? So what's my fraction if I move 9 to the bottom? Can somebody tell me what the top number is going to be?
And the bottom?
What's the top number? If the 9 moved over and went to the bottom, what's my top number?
Wouldn't it just be 95?
0.95, yep, 0.95, which we'll move here in a minute. And what number is on the bottom again?
9.
9. Okay, now, do you agree there's a weird, like, we've never written fractions like this before where there's decimals in the fraction. So, here's what I want you to do. If there's a decimal in the fraction, there's a decimal also on the bottom. You need to move this decimal over the number of places until it goes away. So, if I move this over, how many spots do I need to move it so it goes away? How many spots do I need to move it? 2. So you're going to move the bottom 2 over as well. Now if I move the bottom over, so the top turned out to be 95. If I move the bottom over, what is the number on the bottom now if I move the decimal over 2 spots? If I move the decimal over 2 spots, what's the bottom number now?
9.00.
Not just 9.00, but it's actually 900 because the decimal is in the back. I want you to type that fraction in your calculator. 95 divided by 900.
Uh,
0.15556.
It's the same number that I just created. We can create our own numbers that repeat, and you can make them fractions. This is the process. It's when you figure out how many numbers are underneath the house, that's how many decimal points you move the decimal. So like in my case, I had 1 decimal underneath, 1 number under the house, I moved the decimal over 1 spot. I subtract the number straight down, and then I make a simple fraction out of it. And if there's decimals in it, we'll move them. This is the part, you're gonna get homework on this on Monday. Homework on this on Monday. I think you're gonna get 5 problems. Okay, 5 problems. Okay? Questions today?
No.
Perfect, we're done for the day.